Well, we're sitting in the black void.
That must mean a...
Stop interrupting me! Can't you obviously tell I was doing an intro? Come in and step right on what the f?
Well, here we are on the black void.
It's very, very warm in the black void today.
Waiting for Rich to come in.
Oh.
Just doesn't say anything ever. I'm waiting for you to jump in.
How many times have we f***ing done this?
Well, everyone, here we are on the black void. We're about to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Death. Half in the bag.
That belongs in a museum. So do you.
Look at you, Milwaukee what?
Milkmen. The Milwaukee Milkmen.
I've never even heard of them.
Yeah, they're local.
And then you got some kind of UP, Michigan.
Yeah, I got a Bigfoot shirt I bought in the Upper Peninsula.
Look, I got a Wisconsin shirt on. We're representing the Midwest.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Jay's not.
I'm drinking a spotted cow.
Oh, okay.
There we go. All right.
Well, just look at that.
We got everything covered.
Now
we got to talk about this huge summer tentpole movie.
Look, there's so much to discuss with this film.
The summer tentpole for ants.
Indiana Jones and the Diaper of Destiny is the fifth and last Indiana Jones film. Who'd have thunk? I'd lived to 2023 to see a fucking fifth Indiana Jones film with an 87-year-old Harrison Ford.
Nobody's gonna believe it.
But nevertheless, here we are, and we saw it. This film is set in 1969, and Indiana Jones is off on an adventure to stop Nazi time travelers. You heard that right. I tell you, if good old Walt Disney knew that someday, far in the future, his little company would be making a big action movie about a man who kills Nazis, he'd be appalled.
That's good.
It's okay.
My joke?
The movie.
Before I forget, you mentioned Paramount. I was surprised to see the Paramount logo. I thought this was like pure Disney now.
That's probably just we want to use your Paramount logo.
For
Can we give you $20?
It could be. But they didn't even transition from it to the opening of the movie or anything.
Well,
because we had to see the filthy Lucasfilm logo afterwards before we got to the movie.
Yeah.
They transitioned from the Lucasfilm logo.
Yeah, it's got to go. The Paramount Mountain has to be incorporated into the scene. Did they do that with the last one?
They did. It was actually kind of clever before the CGI
Oh,
gopher showed up.
Mountain.
But seeing the little hill was kind of fun, and then but then the cartoon popped out.
Yeah. Well, so they broke with protocol. I don't know. It has to go in a certain order because the lawyers said it. That's the way the lawyers say it has to go. This is our art now. This is our culture.
Art movie's magical.
Nostalgia dictates that the Paramount logo must be in there, but corporate dictates that the Lucasfilm logo must be shown.
Right. Well, one thing I really disliked was the opening. I know you have to have an Indiana Jones action opening, but I would have really been happy with the film if they cut the action scenes down in half.
The film opens with CGI de-aged Harrison Ford. I'm just curious. What don't you like about the opening? Because I thought it was okay.
The deepfake CGI Harrison Ford was okay. It still didn't get over that uncanny valley effect. Not for me.
I think the problem is Harrison's voice. He sounds like an 80-year-old man.
That's a very good point. I was thinking that, and I wanted to bring that up. Yes, the voice doesn't match the face and body.
I think it's also a combination in this of like multiple layers of uncanny valley, because you have de-aged Harrison Ford on top of a CG train in front of a CG background. So it's like, I don't know, like I don't care about CG in general in big movies, but in an Indiana Jones movie, it stands out more.
Sure.
It definitely did not look like an action sequence from the original movies.
Yeah.
No. And it was like, okay, we all want to see what Indiana Jones did during the Second World War. The movies ended before that started, and then they picked up after it was over, right? So what did Indiana Jones do during the war? In Crystal Skull, they're like, you know what this bastard did for us during World War II? He ain't a commie. Like they had all that. Now there's books, probably 10 books. What did Indiana Jones do during World War II? Who knows? Who cares? Here we get to see it. Through the magic of digital de-aging, we get to see Harrison Ford. and it was less than stellar, and it sucked because he has an old man voice and he's hobbling around, and they probably looked at Harrison Ford and from oh God, so this is 44?
Is this like Patriot Games era Harrison Ford?
Yeah, I'm trying to think like
The Fugitive.
89 to, so 39 to 44 is 5 years, so it'd be 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. Yeah, Air Force One.
About Air Force One.
Air Force One, The Fugitive, yeah.
And he looks like Blade Runner Harrison Ford, which was like 82 or 80.
Yeah, I mean,
It's wrong.
I don't care about that at all.
The other de-aged Harrison Ford, when they flash back like, I don't know, 10 years, 1959 or something.
Later in the movie?
When
Yeah.
Toby Jones is like crazed, trying to figure out the Dial of Destiny, and they do like a slightly younger Harrison Ford. It looked okay, but this was all wrong. I think I just would have been happy if they opened it in 1969, and Indiana Jones tells Phoebe Waller-Bridge, his goddaughter, me and your dad, we during the war, we've tried to find this Dial of Destiny, and we found it on a Nazi artifact train, and I took it and put it in my satchel and punched a guy. He fucking fell off the train, and we jumped off the train, and the dial fell off, and everything happened, and then stop talking to me, and that's it. That's all I needed. I didn't need to see an action scene because there's too many action scenes.
You gotta have that though, because it's the formula.
I think the problem with a lot of the action scenes, like the problem with the train sequence in the beginning, is it's too long. This movie is 2 hours and 34 minutes, and there are 2 mediocre car chases.
In this movie, especially the middle chunk of the movie, is a giant slog because our characters go to a location, the villains show up, they have a okay-ish chase scene that goes on too long, go to a next location, villains show up, they have another chase scene. It's very repetitive in the middle of the movie.
Cut it down to one chase sequence and use the money you're saving to make it a better chase sequence.
Yes, yeah, have some actual
They have
cars
to
and
wow
stunts.
you. They have to take it over the top.
But that's the thing is they don't really take it over the top. They just let it go on too long.
You can't turn it into a Fast and the Furious movie. It has to retain some level of somewhat
is
realism.
that their way of compensating then? We'll just have it go on twice as long as
Yes,
it should.
it is. They could have. They could have.
There's a sweet spot of over the top and believable, and you got to find it.
The chase in New York during the Apollo 11 astronaut parade, that was a good chase sequence. It was pretty simple. Harrison Ford steals a cop horse.
He's on a horse. He dodges some subway trains.
The part where he rode through the subway, when I watched it in the trailer, I thought, oh God, it's going to be stupid. But it was very short and simple, and
it ends with a lighthearted moment where he's like, "Hold my horse."
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of fun.
yeah, and he gets on the subway and sits down, and it was cute. It was very much like the simple level of that college campus chase scene in
Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull,
Yeah.
where the communists are chasing him, and
Which is a better action scene than any of the action scenes in this movie.
that was classic indie action scene.
Yeah.
I wonder who directed that film.
To be fair, James Mangold directed this film. He's a talented director.
He's good, but
I don't know if it's like interference of like Disney being like, well, we got to go bigger. I
no,
have no
yeah.
idea.
I really liked the Logan movie. That was
Yeah, it's
super
great.
stripped down, but I think Spielberg is a smart man, and he would be like, well, no,
I think
that's too much.
Yeah, I think the first half of Crystal Skull is better than this movie, but then the rest of Crystal Skull happens and it goes off a cliff.
The funny
so.
part is the second half of this movie is better than
I
Crystal Skull.
I wouldn't say the second half. I would say it's literally just. I wouldn't even say it's the final act. It's like the final 10 minutes. I'm not even kidding. The final 10 minutes of this movie kind of redeems a lot of its mediocrity.
In a schlock way.
Yes.
Well, we'll get to the ending, but I really can't stress enough how much I really didn't like that opening on the train. Do you even remember? Do you remember when the Nazis brought him up to the roof of a house to like hang him?
Oh yeah. That's
Oh,
before
yeah.
the train.
See, you forgot about it.
I did forget about
and
that.
then
Because that scene goes on for 5
the
days.
Allies drop a bomb and it doesn't detonate and it lands in the attic, and then
It starts to fall from floor to floor.
And I'm like, is this supposed to be like a wacky Indiana Jones set piece, or is this supposed to be scary, or tense, or exciting? Like then the bomb is sinking and he cuts his binds so he can support himself, and they're about to shoot him, but the bomb falls, and the bomb falls through the floor and goes to the next floor, and then the house explodes, and all the Nazis fly and die in the air, and Harrison Ford still, but then the rope is still stuck on a thing, and I'm like, is this a thing? Is this a set piece? And he's like still choking, and I'm like, what's happening?
And then he has to disguise himself as the driver, and the Nazis get in the back of the car, and then he drives to the train and has to disguise himself as a Nazi on the train. It just keeps going, yeah.
Compare that to Last Crusade with the fireplace.
Here's the opening. If you need,
Well, compare it to the opening of Last Crusade. That whole opening with
that's
him
the
as a
train.
kid.
No, yeah.
nice and simple.
Nice and simple.
Or just like start like if you need the flashback, start it on the train, and he's on the train and he's already captured. They pull his mask off. Indiana Jones, you're a spy. I'm the Nazi guy, and I've got a thing in this briefcase. What is? Oh, now punch a couple guys and climb on the roof of the train for like 30 seconds, and then grab Toby Jones and jump off the train into a river and watch before the train goes off the tracks, because the Allies bomb a train track.
Well, I think they wanted to also, like, one, they wanted to open it with the classic Indiana Jones action opening, but also I think they wanted that hard contrast from young adventure man to now pathetic, boring old man.
No, you know how to open it. You do a play on the Indiana Jones action adventure and just have him trying to get ready in the morning.
With the Indiana Jones music. Dun, 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 he's like buttering bread.
like he has to be like late for a lecture or something. You know?
Sure,
And
sure.
He's like struggling with just try to catch a cab, and then he's got to run down and fucking get on.
He's got a jaywalk. He almost gets hit by a taxi. That's the last minute dodge.
He's like fumbling around in the shower, and the shower curtain falls off, and just like all these like mishaps happen.
They would never, ever do
Going
that.
down the stairs in his apartment building, there's an old lady coming out with groceries.
You have that John Williams whimsical doot, 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 as he's trying to get around her.
I do like it when he knocks on his neighbor's door with a baseball bat because they're playing music too loud. They do that.
It's funny. I was thinking he wakes up and he's got hippie neighbors, and they're blasting Sgt. Pepper, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album by the Beatles, and I was thinking like, hold on, I gotta drink beer.
Literally has to stop in the middle of a sentence.
I was thinking you mentioned the tight in and out, right?
Yeah.
Like I was thinking like a Beatles song from like 1968, right? You give verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, out.
Yeah.
2 minutes, 20 seconds, right? Those were old Indiana Jones movies. Intro action scene, fairly quick. Some exposition, action scene, exposition, big action scene, closing, out. It's like the structure of a 2 minute, 15-second Beatles pop hit. And this is like a 43-minute long like Pink Floyd song or something, right?
The extended cut that nobody listens to the whole thing.
Yeah, where it just goes and it goes on and on. Then this part happens and this part happens and it's. And
It's
then
mostly the
starts
middle of the movie.
Starts to wear you down a little.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if you just charted this like structure-wise, you know, because what the action scenes in this, the train opening was half the running time of Temple of Doom, right? I mean, wasn't it?
Yeah, it probably was.
It was probably.
It definitely felt like it.
I think it was like a half an hour long.
You might be right. I'm not even going to doubt that. Yeah.
And so, like, then then we do the chase that they go in he takes her in the library in the archives.
And that leads into the ticker tape
That
parade.
leads ticker tape parade, horse. Then they go to Morocco next, right?
Yes.
And
That's when we get generic car chase number 1.
big car chase. Then we go from there to Antonio Banderas's boat.
They go to the boat, and it's neat that they're under. They haven't done underwater before, but
That was a fun sequence.
It's not the most exciting sequence in the world. They just go underwater and they find a thing, and then they come back up.
It would have been very exciting if I could see what was happening, but like many modern movies, the cinematography is dimly lit for no good reason.
We've never seen underwater archaeologist Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but He needs to do something fun underwater.
He got bit by
He got
eels.
jump scared by an eel. That's not an amazing scene.
And then he didn't do anything clever to get out of the
Yes.
situation. That's, yeah.
Well, they kept saying like 3 minutes of on the ocean floor, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, and I thought they were going to do a thing where like they got stuck or the time didn't really matter.
No, ultimately it didn't make a
when the
difference.
Nazis jumped aboard the boat.
Yeah.
I thought the Indy was going to get caught, or I don't know. I guess there's really no like unless you just get your cords tangled. There's really no like somebody can't come out of the boat and start attacking you like a skeleton. Like what's going to happen?
What if that happened? One of those skeletons came to life.
Eels.
Yeah.
What you know would have been great if like a gigantic just octopus came out of nowhere and just grabbed the ship.
Or a gooberfish.
Oh, gooberfish.
A gooberfish.
What if a gooberfish showed up? Have a crossover.
Or a megalodon.
Oh. That was the most entertainment you got out of this whole theater-going experience, wasn't it?
That really was.
The Meg 2 trailer.
I didn't know.
Jason Statham on a speedboat.
I didn't know there was a Meg 1. Apparently, this is a sequel to a Megalodon movie that has Jason Statham on a fucking jet ski with a samurai sword riding a giant wave, and he's about to attack a Megalodon with a samurai sword.
Okay, so Indy's never done underwater archaeology, and we have to see that.
It's something. And you know what? At least it looked like they really shot it underwater. Maybe it was in a tank or something, but it wasn't CG. It wasn't them in front of like a green screen going like
it
this.
Probably was.
It looked pretty good.
It's just too dark to tell.
That's true. They
just
didn't
had millions of layers of things.
They didn't turn on the lights for that scene.
Right.
So.
But so they get that, and then they escape the boat. She lights a stick of dynamite, and then chase. Oh, they steal someone's like wedding car.
Yeah.
To go into a cave to find the tomb of Archimedes.
They kidnap Neo Short Round.
That guy ain't no short round. That kid, you forget he's in the movie half the time.
He's not short round, but that's what they're going for.
His nickname should have been Unibrow.
Poor kid. Damn.
That was pretty mean.
It was. That was.
They got better laughs the first time we did this discussion. But yeah. So there's the underground illegal bidding auction house for stolen antiquities that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is running. There's the kind of a little punch-out fight scene in there. But you're right. You mentioned that it's like going from here to here to here to here to here.
It's very repetitive and boring because there's no new information.
Right.
It's just we're going here. Oh, and now they've caught up with us, so we got to go somewhere else. And it's which would be more forgivable if the action scenes were more fun and more inventive. But they're very bland.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to say they're bad. They're not bad. Like the chase sequence isn't like it's an awful chase sequence. It's just it's not very creative.
Yeah, there's nothing clever or inventive that happens throughout them. They're very like straight. They're like mechanical.
There's a couple little things that happened. The guy on a motorcycle got hit by a big bundle of straw or something.
That doesn't sound that inventive.
Yeah, Jones jumped from one golf cart to the other.
I guess that was kind of
Remember when that big guy in Raiders got chopped up in propeller blades?
very memorable.
That's very memorable.
Sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
Just Indy having to fight that big guy is just great.
And they had a big guy in this. Did he ever fight that big
No,
guy?
It was a tease.
What a
That
waste.
big guy got handcuffed to a gate underwater and drowned by a little short round.
Oh, yeah.
He killed him. He murdered him.
I will say that there was murder in this movie. A guy got run over by a car. Innocent people got shot point blank. Like, it didn't feel as sanitized as the last one.
Yeah.
Are they running under the thought that the only believable action they can have an 80-year-old Harrison Ford do is drive a car? Is that what this is? Is that what this is? Because he never has the punch-out fight with the big guy, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he's too old for that. And
Well, that guy was like 9 feet tall.
Yeah, he's not whipping and swinging from ledges. It's just
Yeah.
he drives the car.
Well, they kind of like halfway, because the whole idea, and I know you've talked to, I think it was the Plinkett review, where like Indiana Jones is generic adventure man. He's self-insert man. So you never like the idea of him getting older. And I don't really like it in Crystal Skull, but here that's kind of what the movie is partially about. What does Adventure Man do when Adventure Man is too old to adventure?
Yeah.
But their answer to that is just, well, he just goes on another adventure.
But they're less exciting.
But they're less exciting, and then there's kind of something about if I could go back in time and change things, I'd do this. And
Yeah, there's a little theme.
they try to make it like magical and whimsical at the very end, but most of the movie is generic Indiana Jones adventure, so it doesn't really matter. But it's set up at the beginning. He's old, he's miserable. Marion's left him.
Spoilers!
Mutt died in the war. Just get him out of there.
I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, nobody liked Mutt, but
He was fine. I liked Mutt in that movie, the first half of that movie. Everything in the first half of that movie is fine. It's the second half that just sucks and ruins the whole thing.
Part-time.
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 why? They had a good take.
Part-time.
They had a good take. We saw it in the trailer.
Part-time. Part-time.
That is the exact moment that the movie stops being good,
It is.
too.
It
Like,
literally
that
is.
scene is like, boom,
Dead stop.
we're done trying.
Part-time.
He's different than like Rambo action man. Like he's intelligent, you know.
Yeah.
He's like a James Bond, where it's a male fantasy kind of movie.
Right, but you don't want to see that action man as an old, doddering man. And
No.
I think they did a pretty good job of displaying him, of portraying him as that in this movie
Yeah.
without it getting like too depressing.
Right. Well, there was.
They emphasize his scholarly nature a bit. Like, he solves puzzles in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
And he
brought
did
that
in the
back.
other movies too. He was a well-rounded man in all the movies. He got all the ladies and he punched all the bad guys. He was physical but also smart. You know, he wasn't like Jason Statham stabbing a shark. with a,
Hey, you haven't seen the Night 2. Maybe he's a genius in that film.
maybe he's like a marine biologist or something. I don't know. But same with James Bond. He's a clever spy, and same thing. Where it's just like that's kind of why you watch the movie, not to learn about James Bond and his father and his wife and his son and what went wrong with James Bond's marriage. Like you don't care.
To be fair, those recent James Bond movies, the Daniel Craig ones, I guess the idea with those is to kind of deconstruct that type of character, that archetype.
Boring.
So I think that's in a way what they were trying to do with this movie a little bit.
No, it's because there's nothing else to do.
Well, Harrison Ford is 80 years old. So yeah.
Well, even by Last Crusade, it was just like, let's thicken this out.
Yeah.
You know, let's throw in Sean Connery for yucks, and add a little depth. You know, we've done the rando adventure where he goes into Temple of Doom. Let's do something else because nobody liked that.
You just feel like anything could happen.
I'm assuming from a couple of things I've read, people think Phoebe Waller-Bridge is annoying. I did not. I thought she was good in it.
She's fine.
It wasn't anything where it was like she was super likable or she was super annoying.
Well, she wasn't likable, but that was part of the character,
Yeah.
which I liked. She was a nice contrast to Indiana Jones, as far
Right.
as she wants these artifacts just to sell them for money, which is fun.
But really, she wanted to complete the quest because she loved her father.
Forget all that. Just have her be a scumbag. It would have been fine.
Right. But yeah, she's a little like, dodgy in the beginning. Like, she locks him in the room and then in the illegal artifacts auction, she's doing her thing, being bad.
She's not interested in like protecting him or having a good relationship with
No.
him.
So you take Indiana Jones, right? And what does Indiana Jones do? He goes around on adventures and he smooches ladies. And he runs into old ladies that he's had relationships with, like Marion. And I noticed very specifically there were many moments in this film where they flopped that, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the schmoozing. She has the Moroccan ex-husband or
Fiance or something.
the mobster.
Yeah.
She's oogling like dudes.
Couple different dudes, just random background dudes.
The guy takes off his shirt on the boat, and she's like, "Ooh la la." she's objectifying men, and Indiana Jones objectified ladies. So it's possible they're setting the stage for a female action hero, and then she'll have to save the what would be the male equivalent of a damsel in distress? Hansel in distress? Mansell in distress? Can that be the new term? Mansell in distress? Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Indiana Jane and the Mansell in distress.
The harried himbo? A himbo in harm?
Well, none of the women, it's not fair to call them bimbos. None of the women. So
No, all the women in the Indiana Jones movies were plucky and smart.
It's just inverted.
Yeah.
It's just a man that would be going along with Phoebe on her adventures as her companion. But then once,
Which is what I was worried that the movie would be her like in charge of the adventure,
Right.
and Harrison Ford is just this doddering old man following along.
No, he starts taking over because the world's at stake here because the Nazis have a time travel machine. And he goes, those aren't whatever. He's not a professor because he's like, yes, my name is Hans Schmidt. I am a professor in Alabama.
You watched me get hit in the face on a speeding train, yet somehow I am still alive 30 years later.
I thought he was going to have a big old gnarly scar down the side of his face.
That would've been
it's
good,
just
yeah.
fine.
I thought he was just going to be dead, and because he was too big an actor, we'd see him later with time travel.
Oh yeah.
The fact that he survived that is just mind-bending, but okay.
Sure. But then she kind of changes her tune a little. There's that scene, the scene on the boat. Antonio Banderas shows up as one of Indy's old friends, and the second he showed up, I knew he was going to die. He's like, oh, Indy! And I'm like, no, that's the wrong reaction. It's, oh no, it's Indy!
Look, Sala made it out okay.
Sala's in it. Okay, so I was saying that scene when Hans Mikkelsen,
Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
My name is Hans, not a Nazi.
Hans,
wink,
not
wink.
the Nazi,
That's his name.
shows up on their fishing boat because Indiana Jones continues to lead the Nazis to exactly what they want throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Almost immediately.
He led them right to the chalice, the cup of Christ, because he led them to that because they shot his father, and the only way to
Yeah,
save
he's
his
forced
father,
to.
yes.
Yeah.
Who made that movie again?
Steven
something?
Steven
Steven
Spielberg.
Spielberg.
There you go.
Yeah, India gets everyone killed because I guess he wants to stop the Nazis from getting the other half of the Dial of Destiny, but
But they wouldn't get it if they weren't following him.
Yeah.
And they might have found it on their own. They might have had enough information that they could have found it on their own.
Okay.
Nobody's gonna believe it.
Do we have anything to say about the music? I was shocked to see John Williams' name on this.
I wanted to mention that. I looked it up after the movie. I guess it was in the credits. I missed that. But I looked it up because I was like, did he do the music for it? And he did. But I don't know. It almost feels like it's just made up of cues from the other
yeah.
movies.
Yes.
It didn't have that, like you talked about that in your Temple of Doom video, how great the score is to that and how like specific it is to the action. This, a little more generic. I mean, the guy is 90-something. Like,
Yeah.
he might have been phoning it in.
I think he was.
Thinking specifically during the parade horse chase, that like the music. Where's the music? The music isn't selling the scene like it should be.
The theme would creep up every now and then, but it's kind of
felt like it was
inappropriate
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, like it shows up first when he's running across the top of the train, and it feels like, I don't know, that was too early for it
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
It just sort of felt like haphazardly shoved in there. In
but
parts.
not just so much the recognizable theme, but like interesting new music stuff.
I mean, he's 97, and also, I'm not entirely convinced that he has that much to do with this. I wonder if he's just kind of like there's a ghost composer.
Ghost writer, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's possible, because there's one part where it was like, the music was like, dome, 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 dome. Like, it was like, very, like, just repetitive and not good, and I don't know.
It was an AI. They had AI do it. They put in CDs of his original scores, and they said,
ChatGPT, make a John Williams
make
score.
a John Williams score for Indiana Jones at the Dial of Destiny. ChatGPT wrote the script of this movie, too, by the way. That's why it's a little wonky in parts, and a couple scenes are repetitive.
Okay.
They didn't quite get it right.
That's really good.
But AI's almost there.
Yeah, it's almost there.
And then it went haywire in the third act. The machine broke down. and it's the best part of the movie.
That really was.
It is. It was a subversion, though, in the best possible way.
Yeah, spoilers! And I guess we should say, when we say it's the best part of the movie, we're saying it in like a schlock way, like
Tongue in cheek a bit.
because the movie is pretty forgettable and generic and overly long. And then you get to the third act, and I perked up when they're flying the Dial of Destiny. As we all knew, it's a time travel device, and they're flying towards the portal. And Indiana Jones is like, what does he say? He's saying like, you're not going because they're trying to go back in time.
Drift.
Continental drift.
Archimedes couldn't have known about continental drift.
Yeah.
He didn't factor that into his equations.
We're not going to 1939. And for the first time in the movie, I was like, I don't know where this is going, and this is interesting.
Yeah.
The only time in the movie I like perked up.
Like,
really
at that point, I wouldn't have been shocked if we saw dinosaurs.
Sure.
I was half expecting dinosaurs.
Almost there.
Maybe a megalodon. Indiana Jones with a samurai sword.
There's something like, I don't know, more appropriate. Like it is silly, because
No, it was amazing.
no. Let me explain. Like, okay, the premise is there's Archimedes is a old like mathematician man, and he made like they found that what's that real thing, the clock.
I don't know if it has a name, but they found like some kind of weird clockwork gear thing in ancient Greece at a time when something like that should not exist, and they still don't know what the fuck it is.
Yes, and this is based on that.
Yeah.
And so Archimedes like figured out that the planets don't rotate exactly perfect, and when it's off a little, that's when a time fissure opens somewhere in the sky, I guess. And the little clock dial will tell you when it opens, and so that's the premise. And Nazi man Hans Mikkelsen wants to go back to 1939 and kind of redo the war.
He wants to kill Hitler and
wants to
take his
kill
place
Hitler,
because
yeah.
he knows where Hitler went wrong. Yeah. Which is
The
nice.
misdirection is clearly, okay, they're going to go back to World War II again, and we're going to get more de-aged Indy, and maybe they're going to kill old Indy off, but young Indy's going to be there.
I thought we were going to have a fight scene where old Indy and young Indy have to team up.
Yeah.
I thought that's where we were going.
But so they're on the Nazi aircraft, and everyone puts on their Nazi costumes to fly back to 1939. So yeah, they're going to fly through the time portal, and I didn't even think they were going to make it. I thought something was going to happen that kind of stops
Because
it.
that's too ridiculous for one of these movies.
It's too ridiculous, and the Indiana Jones movies, like there's weird mystical magical things that happen, but you never really quite know exactly what it was. And I didn't think like they were literally going to do time travel, but then they do.
They go to ancient fucking Greece, which is absolutely insane.
When they're being attacked by Romans.
Nazis shooting down at Romans.
Nazis versus Roman soldiers is where this movie ends up.
Right.
And I kind of love it.
It was amazing. It was
no-
so ridiculous.
There's no reason why they start shooting at them. I guess they're shooting arrows.
Because they're shooting.
The Greeks think that they're the Roman. They call them like they're dragons or
So
something.
they have dragons.
So they think that they're Roman weaponry. So they're throwing shooting spears at them. So yeah, I guess they're defending themselves somehow. But he's just shooting the machine gun. Just turns into absolute schlock, and I loved every second of it. That's what we need.
Well, it was ridiculous, but at least it was like fun. It wasn't a slog like the rest of the movie where we're just repeating the same type of beats from the other Indiana Jones movies.
If they had got us to that ending faster, cut out the train sequence, no digital de-aging of Harrison Ford whatsoever, start at 1969, have him bumbling around, a couple of real-world action sequences, car chases, the submarine, the scuba diving thing, just cut an hour out.
Yeah.
And get us to that time portal and have it be 91 minutes. It would have been really great. So it was 2.5 hours long.
The franchise is based on the serials. It should be action set piece into the next action set piece. Quick.
And I think most people are probably going to hate the stuff at the end because time travel's so stupid. But it's like, hey, it saved the movie for me. It wasn't good, but at least it was something.
It was wild and unexpected, and even though time travel itself is silly, they kind of sold it, and I believed it.
It was done in the best way possible.
Yeah, and it also was in world because, Archimedes was the guy who invented the dial, and they go back to when he's there, and it's historical. When Indiana Jones met a UFO,
Yeah.
and an alien came alive from crystals and fried Kate Blanchett's brain.
Whatever the hell's happening at the end of that
Something
movie.
happened, and I'm like, aliens.
Yeah.
Just not. That's not right. Or George Lucas had an idea for the second Indiana Jones film was Indiana Jones in a haunted house. This is a legendary story.
Oh, I've heard it.
And
yeah.
Spielberg was like, no. And so, like, that's the kind of stuff, like, but going back in time to like a big historical battle, the antiquity kind of era, like, it makes sense. It works in a strange way, even though it's silly.
Yeah.
And it was fun that they introduced, is that a causality loop?
Yeah.
Because they find his dead body and they're like, he has a watch. Watches were, time clocks weren't invented for another 1,000 years.
It wasn't
or
a
whatever.
true causality loop because he was already building the Dial of Destiny.
I guess it's a little murky there, but he gets the watch
if
from.
he wasn't, and they gave it to him, and then he's like, "What's this?" Then it's a causality.
It's a loop, but it's not a loop that causes itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the dial that Archimedes gets in the past is the same dial, like going around, that would have been a
That's kind of
causality.
what I thought they were doing, but then
Just
they
what I
say,
said,
like,
yeah.
he already was making it.
They
so it's
show
like-
him making
Yeah.
half of it, and it's like half done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they just had handed it to him, and he's like, "What?"
And that's where he got it. He got it from them. That would have been a causality loop.
That's like a Terminator time
Yes.
loop. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Which would have been fun. They kind of mucked that up, I guess.
Yeah,
but-
they did.
Yeah.
Because then the Dial of Destiny, no one invented it,
Mm-hmm.
and it fucks with your head.
Yeah. That's, like Terminator.
Like Terminator, right?
I just thought of something. You know the other strange thing about this movie is? I think it's the only time Indy ever successfully gets the MacGuffin and keeps it. It's in his fucking living room at the end of this movie.
Yeah, because usually it's about, the end of Last Crusade.
Let it go.
Indy, let it go.
Yeah.
That's kind of the point is...
He gives the stone back. The government takes the Ark.
Yeah. I guess that's part of since this is supposed to be the last one, that's meant to be kind of a...
He finally got one.
He finally got something. He didn't go back in time and bring his son back to life. That's another thing I was worried they were... Because he has that scene, like, halfway through the movie.
Oh, yeah.
His little emotional scene where he's like, I'd go back and tell my son not to enlist. I was like, are they going to do that at the end? But luckily they didn't.
Nobody's gonna believe it.
I am so excited to see this movie.
We've been waiting for this one a long time. It is our grail. We are waiting for this movie to come out and a graceful ending for our favorite hero.
Who does this appeal to? 40-year-old dudes. I was trying to think of the demographic in our theater. There's a fucking old lady that kept walking back and forth in front of us.
She had bladder problems.
She was like 79 years old, and she had a hunchback. And she blocked our IMAX screen. She was so big.
She was 30 when Raiders came out.
Right, yeah.
Huge crush on Harrison Ford.
But there were some kids there.
Those kids were bored as fuck. It was like the parents dragged 8 children to the movie.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of odds and ends. But I don't know. Zoomers, no, they don't want to watch this.
They should have just called this movie the Super Mario Brothers movie. Just do it. Fuck it. It would have filled the theater.
See, that has its like super targeted audience.
Yeah.
It's like little kids. Mario has like a super renaissance now.
It appeals to many generations.
It appeals to literally everyone, and every child in the world wants to see Mario and Luigi run around on screen.
Yeah.
88-year-old Harrison Ford is an action hero in some kind of franchise. Like,
It's the few Gen Xers who aren't too jaded that they don't care anymore.
yeah. And then, maybe, 50-year-old men and maybe some older people. Like, if you go during the day, any kind of elderly is going to be there. They watch any movie. So it's a bad sample to take for our study, but you'd have to go on like a Saturday night at like 8 o'clock and see who's there. Are teenagers going to go? 20-somethings on a date to see this? I don't know. Are you going to watch something else? I have no idea. Don't know what they do.
They're too busy watching Grimace shake memes on TikTok.
I think they'll be in the...
Have you seen these, by the way? Have you seen the Grimace shake memes?
All right, y'all. I got this new Grimace shake. I'm excited to try it. First time trying it. Let's see how it tastes. Honestly, it's not that bad.
Like the Grimace character from
Well,
McDonald's?
the Grimace came back. They brought the Grimace shake for Grimace's birthday, whatever that means. And so now it's a trend. And it reminded me of...
Like a purple shake?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's some sort of berry
Does
shake.
it taste like Grimace?
It tastes like...
Do you know what Grimace tastes like?
Only Ronald McDonald does.
But no, it reminds me of the No Brand Con video where you're like, whoa, gotta check out some manga. And then hard cuts to you dead on the ground.
Whoa! Check out all the dealers at No Brand Con this year. You can pick up whatever kind of manga, anime you want.
Happy birthday, Grimace. That's pretty cool.
Hard cut to them dead on the ground, surrounded by Grimace shake. They're actually kind of amazing.
These Zoomers stole our bit.
They did. They stole our bit.
We did that bit before they were born.
And it's
How
far
dare
more.
they?
It's far more entertaining than the 2.5-hour Indiana Jones movie.
Shout out to Grimace. Happy birthday. Let's try it out. Oh my gosh. It's literally so good.
So young people in the theater watching Grimace shake videos.
They look up when they hear a punch sound.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like 2 in this movie.
There's a fair amount.
There's a lot.
He doesn't punch enough
He doesn't
people.
punch people, but there's punch sound
She
effects.
punches
You get
a
all
bunch
the
of
classic
people.
sound. You even get the Millennium Falcon dying sound.
Yeah, and there's a Wilhelm in there, I'm sure.
There was early. I think they like pitched it differently. It had like a lower pitch, so it wasn't as recognizable.
Who cares?
None of the other sounds are up to Ben Burtt quality though, so they all sounded out of place when they happened. That doesn't sound like the rest of this movie. That's just a reference.
To be fair, this movie
You're too
isn't...
attuned to these things.
Yeah.
Most people aren't.
Most people aren't thinking about that. To be fair, though, the movie isn't full of member berries. Not really.
No, just Sala.
Sala comes back, and there's a couple like random references to I've seen voodoo, little things.
Oh, the Blood of Kali.
Yeah, he mentions that. But it's mostly just its own adventure, I guess. So.
He kept his mouth shut. You know, like
He kept his mouth shut.
Indiana Jones did. Because he's like, yeah. Do you don't believe in magic? You know, and he's like, I've seen some crazy shit. I don't know what the fuck I saw, but yeah. And it's like he could have listed a whole bunch of crazy stuff. You know?
That's true. Yeah.
I opened the Ark of the Covenant, and
God killed a bunch of Nazis.
a bunch of energy flew out and blew. But I guess he literally didn't see what happened.
Yeah, but he knows some shit happens.
They were all gone. They could have just like ran away.
I suppose you're right, yes.
Like it scooped up everything, even melted people. He didn't see them getting zapped with electricity and their eyes burning. So yeah, and it scooped them all back up, shuffled them around in the air, and shoved them back down in the Ark in a pile of dust.
How did you end up like this?
I mean, resourceful, daring, beautiful, self-sufficient.
Well, a lot of the humor didn't land. There's that part. Oh God, when they're in Tangiers, they're in Morocco, and the Moroccan police show up. Remember? They just got in that big fight, and they're outside.
Yeah.
And then they all point guns at them, and he goes, "Look, guys, put your guns away." And they all put their guns away, and they run away
Because they're scared of Phoebe Waller-Bridge's
the
fiance.
mobsters are showing up, and I think that was supposed to be a joke, but it didn't work.
Because we didn't understand that the gangsters were supposed to be intimidating.
We didn't know who that was that was
They're
pulling
just
up.
people who show up in a car.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like getting the punchline after like 5 minutes after they told you the punchline. I don't know how to.
They do the setup after the punchline.
Yeah, I guess.
Kinda.
I don't know how to explain that, but it just didn't work.
We need to know that who is pulling up is a threat before they pull up, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, I think if you flip the camera around, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge looks and she goes, "Oh my God, it's my boyfriend, and he's in the Moroccan mafia," and then they pull up and they all have guns out, and then Harrison Ford goes, "Look, guys," you know, and they're all behind him aiming guns. Put your guns down, police.
Yeah.
You know, and then you cut to the police and they run away, and Harrison Ford goes,
Yeah.
and turns around and goes, "What?" It was just the way that it was shot. So James Mangold might be a good director of certain things, but not comedy shooting and framing and set up payoff kind of thing. Didn't work.
Which is an important part of these movies because they are all funny movies.
Yes.
They're action movies, but they're lighthearted and fun.
Yeah, there's humor.
There's not a lot of humor in this movie.
No.
There's a few attempts, but there's long stretches where it's just very dry.
There was that weird part too when they Harrison the Apollo 11 parade's happening and it's being trailed by like a Vietnam War protest, and he runs out into the Vietnam War protest and he starts saying like, "Hell no, we won't go."
Yeah, he gets them all to start chanting.
And then everyone, but they were already chanting, and it was
How
like,
does that help him?
Was that
Yeah. It's not distracting because
they're already distracted.
Yeah. It's like, what? Yeah.
What are you doing?
Did that help?
What are you doing?
And then he just grabs a sign and he smacks the guy with the sign. Like he could have just done that in the first place without starting a chant.
His son died in Vietnam, so maybe he's just strictly anti-war, and he just wanted to join in.
But it seemed like he
was doing it to distract them.
Setting up for a distraction.
Yeah.
That never happened, or was already happening, and he didn't need to set it.
Say if all the hippies were sitting in like a circle, just going like this, right? And then he runs out and he has no place to hide, and there's guys coming after him, and he goes, "Hippies, what about that Vietnam War? Doesn't that suck? Hell no, we won't go." And yeah, that's right, that old guy's right. And they all get up and they start going like this.
Kind of like the diner fight in Crystal Skull.
The diner fight.
That's my boyfriend!
Right, who directed that movie?
Oh, that was Steven Spielberg.
Where things are calm, but you create a distraction and use the distraction as subterfuge to hide behind. When there's already a distraction, you cannot create a distraction on top of that.
He made it more of a distraction, which slightly benefited him.
They were chanting something different. Instead of going, "No war," they were saying, "Hell no, we won't go." And then he grabs the sign and hits the guy with the sign. Fall flat. Humor fall flat.
It was kind of funny when he's riding the horse and he passes the astronauts, though, and they're just like...
Well, yeah, not funny. Not ha-ha funny, but cute.
Cute, in a way that some of the, like Indiana, like Last Crusade. When
Hitler signs the book.
Yeah, that type of stuff, situational.
Yes, that was also much better executed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one directed by Spielberg was better executed?
Yes.
Okay.
Indy thinks Hitler has caught him.
Yes.
And he knows who he is, but Hitler has no idea who he is.
And then Hitler grabs the fucking MacGuffin out of his hand. Oh no, Hitler has the diary. It's a great scene.
It's a great scene.
And then he autographs it.
And hands it back.
Do you remember when the bad guy from the first one, when he comes in, Marion's in the tent, and he starts taking out the thing with the chains?
Yeah, the coat hanger.
And it's a coat hanger. Yeah, that was a good. Who directed that film? I forget.
Man, you just hate James Mangold.
I don't hate James Mangold. I know very little about James Mangold. I liked Logan a lot, but that wasn't a funny movie.
Yeah.
And it was a good movie.
It's a very dour movie.
It's a very, very dour movie. And this, Indiana Jones are supposed to have an element of lightheartedness to them. And the way that the comedic scenes are structured and played out and executed needs to be spot on.
Yeah, there's also that bit when they're going through the caves.
Oh, it's all starting to fall apart now, isn't it? At least they flew into the past.
But the part with the bugs, because it's like, well, we got to have a scene with gross creatures, so they get covered in bugs for 2 seconds, and then they brush them off, and then it just continues.
Pointless.
It's pointless, yeah, but it's like, well, you got to put that in there.
And let's.
And the CGI bugs, nowhere near the same visceral reaction as real thing.
Compared to anything in Temple of Doom.
But let's revisit the bugs in the Temple of Doom. They weren't just bugs.
Oh, God, what is this?
They were bugs, and the only person who could save them from a spike trap was a very dainty lady who has been established to hate everything in the jungle.
She's terrified of everything.
Bats, vampire bats, bugs, iguana growls at her. Like, she's scared of everything. And she's the one who has to stick her hand in a thing of bugs to pull the lever. That's who has to save Indiana Jones in Short Round. And that's a scene.
That's a gag and a scene.
That's a gag and a scene, and it's motivated. And you're on your edge of your seat because you're like, oh God, we know what's there, because what's I step on something.
Yeah, there's something on the ground.
Feel I step on fortune cookies.
And then Indiana lights the match, Oh, God. And they see that there's trillions of bugs. So we know that. He set it up.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the spike room. The only way to save them is Willie Scott.
Hey, they set up the eels in this by saying, hey, there's eels down there. And then his clever way of getting out of the eels is just kind of flailing around.
We are going to die.
So, would you recommend, would either of you recommend seeing this in the theater? Is this a theater-going experience?
No, it's not a theater-going experience. It's an experience that needs to have an hour cut out of it, and then it's okay.
Just watch it on Disney Plus in 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. I definitely don't hate it.
It's too bland to hate. Like, there's nothing terrible in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just forgettable.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth seeing in the
There's
theater
no,
at
there's
all.
no standout moment like the Tarzan scene that really like cringe you, but it's just too long and kind of bland and repetitive.
Yes.
Like point A to point B to point C to point D, like one step ahead of the bad guys. Eventually, that they're going to get there, and then the set pieces were a little dull.
Point A to B to C to D would work if it were fun A to B, fun action sequence A to fun action sequence B to fun, but if it was bland action sequence to
you got to
bland
go
action
point
sequence
A to you got to go point A to point B to point X to point L. That you got to throw a curveball in there. It can't just be like.
Yeah, that's the whole middle of this movie. There's new information revealed.
They call it a plot twist, and it comes somewhere in the middle of the movie, like some shit that you didn't expect to happen. Like,
well, let me ask you this:
Mads Mikkelsen is not a Nazi. It's a different guy. And really, the people who are looking for the Dial of Destiny is the fucking FBI, and they want to bring back Kennedy. You know what I mean? That's a plot twist.
What if he was Archimedes?
Sure.
He was time traveling the whole time.
Sure.
He pulls his mask off.
He wants his, no, that's what Archimedes looked like. He just wants his dial back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He happened to look like the Nazi from.
No, because he time travels. He was also the Nazi.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, but we know. Is Mikkelsen?
Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen. He was in like Rogue One or one of the Star Wars things.
He's a good actor. Royale.
Oh yeah.
He's a Bond villain and a indie villain.
Yeah.
So we know he wants the Dial of Destiny to save Nazis.
We know from the first scene.
And that's his goal. And Indy wants him to not get the Dial of Destiny.
And then we watch that for 2 hours.
That's the plot. And there's a little bit of character interaction with him and his goddaughter, but
maybe that's what they were hoping would suck people in. That
they're funny.
I don't know.
Change like Sean Connery, but
maybe if it were shorter, that would have worked better.
So I would probably say skip this in the theaters.
Yeah, skip it in the theaters. It might be fine to watch in Disney Plus. Skip through when it gets slow.
Fast forward anytime the action starts.
Yeah.
Which is what you want in an action movie.
Well, yeah, what are we supposed to get out of this?
Just gotta get to the last 10 minutes. Just watch the last 10 minutes of the movie.
A few minutes of like elation when the Nazis are machine gunning Roman soldiers from a giant flying. That's it. That's all I got out of it. Maybe when Harrison Ford rides past the Apollo 11 astronauts, it goes. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are the takeaways. You had a 6-second movie.
Keep up the good work, Lucasfilm. Can't wait for Willow season 2. Oh, they just pulled that from existence.
They used the Dial of Destiny to erase it. Paramount Plus wants the Dial of Destiny next. I'm gonna get rid of that Grease show, the pink ladies. Star Trek Prodigy erased from existence.
Willow's currently fighting Greek soldiers.
Multiverses are all the rage now. You're gonna have a movie that's the multiverse of all the canceled shows.
Right.
All the shows that are pulled from streaming services.
They all get sucked into like another dimension. And
they have to fight dinosaurs or something. Yeah.
The pink ladies and Star Trek Prodigy characters. Willow, Warwick Davis is there with a spear.
The streaming triangle.
Yeah. Yes. We've got to fight our way back on the streaming service. Willow, come on.
Bye.